Dude, how the fuck, man? You know, that's oh shit. I think this might be a different kind of vibe. Just keep it nice and still. Alright, sweet. I've guessed here today we're having some lunch, so I'm gonna go quickly popped out to come and read a chapter with you guys, and then we're gonna get started. So this chapter is pretty longish. It's a couple of pages, but we'll enjoy it. Cool. Let's get straight into it. Chat in a bit. The first principle in the science of getting rich. Sweet. Thought. Thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. The stuff from which all things are made is a substance which thinks, and a thought of form in this substance produces the form. Original substance moves according to its thought. Every form and process you see in nature is a visible expression of a thought in original substance. As the formless stuff thinks of a form, it takes that form. As it thinks of a motion, it makes that motion. That is the way all things were created. We live in a thought world. We live in a thought world, which is part of a thought universe. The thought of a moving universe extended throughout the formless substance, and the thinking stuff moving according to that thought took the form of systems of planets and maintains that form. Thinking substance takes the form of its thought. It moves according to the thought, holding the idea of a circling system of suns and worlds. It takes form of these bodies and moves them as it thinks. Thinking the form of a slow-growing oak tree, it moves accordingly and produces the tree, though centuries may be required to do the work. In creating, the formless seems to move according to the lines of motion it has established. The thought of an oak tree does not cause the instant formation of a full-grown tree, but it does start in motion the forces which will produce the tree along established lines of growth. Okay, typical, I have a vision, I have a goal, you and me, we are sitting and we're talking about it, and we want all of these things to happen today. And we want to drive the Ferrari, and we want to drive the Bentley, we want to drive the Rolls Royce, and we want to be driven, and we want to have all these different things. But when you start thinking about it, and you actually start, and you pair it with work, the thought puts things in motion in your benefit down the line, however long it's going to take to get there. And so it's like going to the shop and buying ingredients to make a 5-course meal at a 3 Michelin star level, and then just putting the ingredients on the table and not cooking. You know what I mean? But you're also not yet a Michelin star chef, so you first have to get to that stage to then use the ingredients to produce the 5-course 3 Michelin star meal. Right, I hope that makes sense. Every thought of form held in thinking substance causes the creation of the form, but always, or at least generally, along lines of growth and action already established. The thought of a house of a certain construction, if it were impressed upon formless substance, might not cause the instant formation of the house, but it will cause the turning of creative energies already working in trade and commerce into such channels as to result in the speedy building of the house. And if there were no existing channels through which the creative energy could work, then the house would be formed directly from primal substance, which, without waiting for the slow processes of the organic and inorganic world. Think about Dubai. Some countries have taken years, centuries to be built, and in 25, 35, 45 years they've been able to build what they've built. It's pretty crazy, and I'd argue that those people think in a certain way. No thought of form can be impressed upon original substance without causing the creation of the form. Man is a thinking center and can originate thought. All the forms that man fashions with his hands must first exist in his thought. He cannot shape a thing until he has thought that thing. And so far man has confined his efforts wholly to the work of his hands. He has applied manual labor to the world of forms, seeking to change or modify those already existing. He has never thought of trying to cause the creation of new forms by impressing his thoughts upon formless substance. When man has a thought form, he takes material from the forms of nature and makes an image of the form, which is in his mind. I'll read that again, sorry. When a man has a thought form, he takes the material from the forms of nature and makes an image of the form which is in his mind. He has, so far, made little to no effort to cooperate with the formless intelligence, to work with the Father, they say here. He has not dreamed that he can do what he seeth the Father doing. Man reshapes and modifies existing forms by manual labor. He has given no attention to the question whether he may not produce things from formless substance by communicating his thoughts to it. We propose to prove that he may do so, to prove that any man or woman may do so, and to show how. As our first step, we must lay down three fundamental propositions. First, we assert that there is one original formless stuff or substance from which all things are made. All the seemingly many elements are but different presentations of one element. All the many forms found in organic and inorganic nature are but different shapes made from the same stuff, and this stuff is thinking stuff. A thought held in it produces the form of the thought. Thought in thinking substance produces shapes. Man is a thinking center, capable of original thought. If man can communicate his thoughts to original thinking substance, he can cause the creation or formation of the thing he thinks about. To summarize this, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thoughts upon formless substance can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. In this crazy world of, I almost said a different word, crazy world of instant gratification, we find it potentially difficult to wait for things and be patient. Gary Vee always spoke about it back in the day, and this is something that I loved about him, was he kept speaking, and I didn't understand it at the time. Now I love it about him, when he talked about patience. And he was saying, put in the work, do everything that you need to do, make every day count, and then things will come to you as you want them to. Boom. It may be asked if I can prove these statements, and without going into details, I answer that I can do so, both by logic and experience. Reasoning back from the phenomena of form and thought, I come to one original thinking substance, and reasoning forward from this thinking substance, I come to man's power to cause the formation of the thing he thinks about. And by experiment, I find the reasoning true, and this is my strongest proof. If one man who reads this book gets rich by doing what it tells him to do, this is evidence in support of my claim. But if every man who does what it tells him to do gets rich, that is positive proof until someone goes through the process and fails. The theory is true until the process fails, and the process will not fail. For every man who does exactly what this book tells him to do will get rich. I've said that men get rich by doing things in a certain way, and in order to do so, men must become able to think in a certain way. A man's way of doing things is a direct result of the way he thinks about things. To do things in a way you want to do them, you will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. This is the first step towards getting rich. To think what you want to think is to think truth, regardless of appearances. Every man has natural and inherent power to think what he wants to think, but it requires far more effort to do so than it does to think the thoughts which are suggested by appearance. To think according to appearance is easy. To think truth regardless of appearances is laborious, and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work man is called upon to perform. There is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It's the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it, and this can only be prevented by holding the thought of truth. To look upon the appearance of disease will produce the form of disease in your own mind, and ultimately in your body, unless you hold the thought of truth, which is that there is no disease. It is only an appearance, and the reality is health. Right. I used to watch Dr. Oz on TV after school, and when I felt a pain here or pain there, I'd always say to my parents, "You need to go to the doctor, I'm not feeling well, something's wrong with me." And my dad always used to say to me, "Be careful what you think, because it can actually become true." And then I started seeing how there were stories where kids actually created illnesses inside of them because they wanted their attention, etc., etc. Cool. Right, my wife's looking for me. She's probably going to come and call me now. Right, so to look upon the appearances of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your own mind. Unless you hold to the truth that there is no poverty, there is only abundance. To think health when surrounded by appearances of disease, or to think riches when you are in the midst of appearances of poverty, requires power. But he who acquires this power becomes a mastermind. He can conquer fate. He can have what he wants. This is my wife. See how gorgeous she looks. Come stand on this side. They can see your bump. Reminds me of you. If you want to say hello. I'm almost done. I've got one more page left and then I'll be joining you guys. Bye. Okie dokie. Back to where we were. To think health, okay, cool. He can conquer fate and he can have what he wants. This power can only be acquired by getting hold of the basic fact which is behind all appearances, and the fact that there is one thinking substance from which and by which all things are made. I put a specific little light bulb on this page over here. Right, I'm not sure how you guys like to read or put notes on and things like that, but this light bulb over here was where he talks about the three fundamental statements of the actual Superman. So then we must grasp the truth that every thought held in the substance becomes a form. So thought to form. So think to reality or a thing. Bring it to life. And that man can so impress his thoughts upon it to cause them to take form and become visible things. When we realize this, we lose all doubt and fear. For when we know that we can create what we want to create, we can get what we want to have and can become what we want to be. And as a first step towards getting rich, you must believe the three fundamental statements given previously in this chapter. And in order to emphasize them, I repeat them here. I'm going to read that part again because I want you guys to listen to what I'm saying. When we realize this, and what is this that we realize? We're grasping the truth that every thought held in the substance becomes a form, and that man can so impress his thoughts upon it as to cause them to take form and become visible things. So creating something from nothingness. When we realize this, we lose all doubt and fear. For we know, that's why people talk about having faith and believing, and then the difference between, there was one guy, I can't remember who it was, Paul something maybe, where the guy said, have you met God, or have you seen God, or like, do you believe in God? And he said, believe? What do you mean? I know. And so that's the difference here. When we realize this, we lose all doubt and fear, for we know that we can create what we want to create, we can get what we want to have, we can become what we want to be. As a first step towards getting rich, we must believe the three fundamental statements given previously in this chapter, and in order to emphasize them, I repeat them here. Number one, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates and fills the interspaces of the universe. So there is a place, there is a well of ideas, and there is a, let's try and make it simple. There is another planet, oh that's too far, let's make it right here. In your pocket, there's a space. In your mind, there's a space where all of these things come from. Number two, a thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. So you go in and you go, cool, I'm going to close my eyes, so think about meditation or visualization. I'm going to the place where there is this thinking substance. I'm opening the door to the thinking substance. I'm going, hey, there's unlimited of everything over here. I want to create something. Okay, so think about what you want to create. I want to create this. Sweet. So then, in that case, man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. So think about atoms. Think about empty space, and you putting in a calculation of your brain and going, hey, I want to create something like this, and all of those things coming together to produce the thing that you thought about. You must lay aside all other concepts of the universe than this monistic one, and you must dwell upon this until it is fixed in your mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these creed statements over and over again. Fix every word upon your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe what they say. If a doubt comes to you, cast it aside as sin. Do not listen to arguments against this idea. Do not go to churches or lectures where contrary concept of things is taught or preached. Do not read magazines or books which teach a different idea. If you get mixed up in your faith, all efforts will be in vain. Do not ask why these things are true, nor speculate as to how they can be true. Simply take them on trust. The science of getting rich begins with the absolute acceptance of his faith. Okay, So basically this chapter sums it up. The first principle of the science of getting rich. You can go to a place where there is unlimited of everything. It's limitless. And you can go there and say, I want to create X. And then it says, cool, you can have X. And then we must go and actually create it by doing the work and doing all those kinds of things. But just the mere fact that we can go to a place in our minds or inside of us, or when we pray or anything like that, we can create things from nothing. And so that's something that I had to learn the hard way. And I think a lot of people nowadays, my age is 30, or anyone between 15 and even 45, 55, you know. When you get to a certain age, about 55, you just don't give a shit anymore. But there was a time where I was like, who the hell am I? What am I? Where are my roots? What do I stand for? What do I value? And I was looking around and trying to find mentors and people that I could, work with. But I always tried to embody them and what they wanted to do. And growing up, I always wanted to, I'll call it a chameleon skill. I don't know what an X-Man or a Marvel superhero would be, maybe a shapeshifter. But what I would be able to do as a kid and what I learned to do to protect myself was take characteristics from all the people around me that other people liked and adopted them to myself. And so I had to unlearn all of those things later on in life, to a point now where I can wake up every morning and go, I know who I am, and I'm building for the things that I want to build. And so I think with all of the, I'd say diversity, number one, options, number two, and insane amount of opportunities, it becomes very difficult to pick one and stick to it. And so I think if I could leave you guys with anything from this message specifically, it's how he says, like, hey, you shouldn't go and go to different places or read magazines or listen to certain podcasts or the news or whatever the hell he says about how that can shift your faith. And so the point that he's trying to make there is going, when you decide on a thing and you want to believe a thing, it's like for me, whenever I feel when shit's not going right, it's because I'm not grounded in my faith. And so you need to find that for yourself, and I think once you have that, you'll be unstoppable. I promise you that. Anyway, see you boys and girls tomorrow for chapter 5, which is a tasty one, increasing life. And yeah, I'll read you the first line of this one. You must get rid of the last vestige of the old idea that there is a deity or deity whose will it is that you should be poor, or whose purpose may be served by keeping you in poverty. There is absolutely no person like that, thing like that, that wants to that wants to check this out. This is our Oslo. Hello, Sian. He's the Australian Shepherd. He's my brother-in-law's dog, running around like crazy. Let's see. Anyway, let's go have a look at everybody. Let's say hello. This is why we set everything up for today. Okay, there's Oslo. Hello. It's a big boy, that. Okay, come.